Hi again, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Jennifer Lynn Adams. If you have not, please subscribe below. I am extra-abled, and I am here sharing my extra-abled story, hoping that it builds up your life. Today, we are going to be talking about being infantilized, which sounds like a really weird word, and basically what it means is being treated as a child when you are an adult. So it's an adult being treated like a child, which limits the adult's ability to develop and become independent. I am sure, as my extra-abled audience, that you have experienced this. And it's very, very common. So in this video, I'm going to share some examples of how I have felt infantilized, and if it connects with you, and then I'm going to share just some things that I've learned from my own experiences of how to get out of that cycle if you are being infantilized. So the first part of my life, I grew up in a very strict religious home with a lot of rules. And then also when I became a teenager, I had a lot of restrictions. I was constantly getting pulled from my social life early. Like, my friends would want to go to Denny's and it'd be 10 p.m. and I would have to go home. And they would be going out until midnight. This was even when I was 17 and 18 years old. And I remember one of my friends saying to my dad, like, "Why are you making these rules for Jenny?" And he was like, "Well, she's really special and she just needs to be protected." And so that pretty much sums up a lot of things that were happening. And the sense was, as I was becoming an adult, it was like, you can go and become an adult, but don't go too far, and don't go beyond this wall that we've set for you, because we want you to stay close to home and still need us. And we need you to need us, and we're worried about you. And so there kind of was always this sense of like, yes, go be an adult, but don't go too far away, and don't go too far into independence, to where you make us worry, and we feel like we have to go get you, or we feel like we have to bring you back to us. There was a little bit of codependence too, like they needed me to need them. So that was, it basically just set up a not so great, strong foundation for me to be a grown adult. And I faced a lot of challenges in my early adulthood because of some of those foundational things that were missing. So the good thing was I went off to college, and college was kind of a buffer in between, like, getting thrown straight into adulting, as they say. And so I was able to develop a really strong group and community of, like, the church that I was going to, and I lived on campus all 4 years. But it was after college that I got thrown right into paying rent, getting a job. And in that time, it was very confusing because I was doing the adulting, but I was also still being treated like a child by a lot of my female roommates. And especially one particular house, it got really, really bad, where I was actually being emotionally and physically abused in a house. And there very much was a sense of, you are small, you are childlike, and I will dominate you, and you have to do what I say. And so that was a really damaging time. But shortly after that, when I was 27, was when I got my first apartment. And I had never imagined that that'd be possible. In fact, that's why I didn't leave when I was being abused, because I didn't even know. I felt so dependent on people in my immediate surroundings to help me do, like, basic everyday things in my life. And I couldn't imagine doing things all by myself. And I think it's because no one had ever told me that I could, or had ever pushed me towards that. And so I moved out on my own at age 27 and had my own apartment, and it was wheelchair accessible. It was the first wheelchair accessible home I had ever lived in. And so I was able to start learning how to cook. And in that time, I learned how to do everything by myself. Things I never thought I could do by myself. I got really innovative, and I started being 100% independent. And that felt like a miracle. The next big step towards being fully independent was when I won Miss Wheelchair America. And this is actually a really good time for me to plug Miss Wheelchair America, because they're doing right now, they have a cause called Dust Off Your Crown. So they weren't able to crown a winner this year because of COVID. So they're encouraging all the former winners to talk about Miss Wheelchair America. So here's a picture of me when I was Miss Wheelchair America. And this was a time where I was able to really blossom. I remember when they put that crown on my head, I was so overjoyed. And it wasn't just because I had won the crown. It was because I was given a purpose even more than ever, and a chance to really grow. And in that season, I traveled all over the world. I had never traveled by myself before. I was staying in hotels, and I was also collaborating with the pageant planners and connecting with, the pageant hosts in each community that I was going to. And it was really, really a time of incredible growth and maturity. And it really was a time that I came fully into my womanhood. And it also opened the doors for me to start a motivational speaking business. It opened the doors for me to move to Miami, where I really experienced 100% independence. I had no one there that I even knew when I first moved to the city. And so the thing is, though, I came to a point where I ran out of steam in being that independent. And I did go back to the beginning. I had a major breakdown where I just really felt so burnt out of adulting. And I moved back in with my parents for 7 months right before I turned 40. And it felt like I was the biggest failure ever, because I had built all these blocks of being independent, and I had had all these experiences of being a woman and not being treated like a child. And suddenly I'm back in my parents' house, which ended up actually being a really unhealthy thing for me. Now, about 2 years ago, I moved into this apartment, and again, I'm living 100% independently. And so now I'm looking back on that break, and I'm saying, what was I missing? Because what happened was, all those years of being infantilized or being treated like a child, although I found my way out of it, it didn't give me the building blocks to sustain being an adult long term. And I kind of just fizzled out. And so right now, I am working on recognizing where I'm missing some things and really filling in those gaps in the foundation of who I am. So, in proceeding here in this video now, I'm going to give you some examples of what it is to be infantilized. I actually found a test on Google. If you Google infantilized test, it will just give you a test with about 30 questions. And most grown adults score about 5% on the infantilized test. And I took this test kind of in the context of my whole life, and I scored a 33%. So it was very obvious that I've had a lot of infantilizing type experiences, and that I need to set boundaries. Even now, living in an apartment, I still need to set boundaries with people that I'm a grown woman and I'm not a child, and so I won't allow people to treat me that way. So some of the examples of being infantilized were on this test were things like, are you being controlled in your home environment? Meaning, are you controlled about like when you have to go to your room, when you have to go to sleep, when you have to wake up, when you have to eat, what you have to eat? Is somebody controlling your food intake or what you eat for food? Is somebody controlling what you watch on television? Is somebody making you do things you don't want to do? Is somebody controlling when you leave and when you come home? Are you being controlled when you can drive and when you can't, or whether you can go out and take a bus or go out and do something independent? When you're out and about, is somebody controlling when you have to come home? And you know, being a parent and being a spouse, like, some of these things are kind of part of, you know, the situation of, like, you know, can you come home and watch the kids because I need to go do this or that. That's where the 5% comes in. But if you're scoring higher than 5% in those areas and you're feeling controlled in your environment, then you're probably being infantilized. And it's very common for extra-abled people. So there's also a component here of caregiving. So if you are physically extra-abled and you require assistance to do basic life tasks, oftentimes caregivers can begin to infantilize the people they're caregiving. So I just want to clarify with you that a caregiver is only there to help you with the things you cannot do. And they are there to help you with those things on your terms. And you should also never feel obligated to allow someone, just because they're helping you with things you need help with physically, that should never be permission for them to control you in any way. You are a grown adult. You make your own decisions, even if they're not the right decisions. Honestly, nobody should be controlling what mistakes you make or you don't make, and nobody should be making those choices for you or limiting your ability to be independent. So if you are being infantilized by a caregiver, and any of those examples I gave you identify in your life, I would strongly encourage you to set boundaries. And this is what I would encourage you to do. First of all, be brave. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself and say, I've been being treated like a child in these ways by you, and that's not going to fly anymore. And basically just set up the boundaries with them. You know, that you can no longer do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, because you are treating me like a child and I'm not. I am a grown adult, and so this isn't going to be okay anymore. Set those boundaries firm. Give them a chance to respect those boundaries. And if they don't, then find someone who will. Interview people and set those boundaries up front. If you're being provided care by your parents and you're over 21, then it's time to set boundaries with them too. That if they are caregiving for you, then now they are your caregivers, but they are not your parents. They're not there to control you, decide for you, make your choices. So be brave and stand up to even them and say, you can't treat me like a child anymore. I'm over 21. So I am going to be making these choices on my own. And these are the things I need from you. And if they push back and say, well, we're your parents, so we can, we have permission to treat you this way or that way, or to determine that you do this or that on our terms. Not if you're over 21. Nope. You have legal rights to be treated like an adult. And if they aren't able to, then it's time to move out and find ways to be independent from those dynamics. And, I would encourage you to find community resources. A good community resource in every city in America is called the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. And if you go to them and set up an appointment and let them know what your goals are, they can help you find the programs and the funding to do the things you want to do to live independently. I've actually used them in my life too. So that is the advice. That's what I want to share with you today. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please like it. And if you have anything you'd like to say below, please comment in the comment section below. And I will see you in my next video.